all of us see the moment that we're in. And all of us see that the choices that it feels like we have sometimes, which is Hassan Piker and Tucker Carlson, or Nick Fuentes and, Andrew Tate, the kind of people that are rising in the podcast charts, those don't actually represent our values. And I don't think that they represent the values and the worldview of the vast majority of Americans.
Oh my god, Bari Weiss is such a fucking... Hello, welcome to a new edition of the Right Wing Populist Podcast. I am the Right Wing Populist. So today I want to talk about Bari Weiss. She's been going on her bullshit, talking about how Tucker Carlson doesn't represent, sort of the mainstream of America conversation, American thought. I want to talk about why that's not true. And I want to talk about more about Bari Weiss and why I think her actually joining CBS is actually a negative thing. I've seen all these conservatives saying, oh, it's so wonderful. Bari Weiss is now at CBS. She's going to run CBS. That's so terrific. It's like, no, because she's terrifically awful. So we don't want that. Bari Weiss sucks. But before we begin, and I also want to talk about this Witkoff situation when you have leaked calls and leaks regarding Witkoff trying to claim that he's working for the Russians. Just insanity. But before we get into all of it, I want you to subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the hell you listen to this beautiful audio experience. And also, if you are watching or listening on YouTube, also like and comment. I would really frickin' appreciate it. So as you just heard, Bari Weiss was at one of these stupid Jewish conferences, and I'm not saying they're stupid because they're Jewish. I'm saying they're stupid because they're conferences, and conferences are dumb. Ever been to like a conference for either work or just some event that you're interested in? They're so lame. You have mediocre speakers who can't talk. Now, a little hypocritical coming from me, but these people can't talk. It's a conference. Everyone's sick. Half the people are looking just to hook up there, at least depending on the conference. Let's not even get into that. It's sort of funny how whenever you have like some Republican conference, like the amount of Grindr notifications you'll get is sort of incredible. It'll be like a hotspot of people using Grindr whenever there's like a Republican-related conference. It's sort of, not that I would know. I'm not saying, not that I know from first-hand experience, although maybe I do, but I don't. I do not know. I don't even know what Grindr is. What is it? It sounds gay. I don't know if it's gay. Might be gay. I don't think it's gay. Could be. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. My apologies. But speaking of gay, Bari Weiss, and I think she is a lesbian, so that's not even a joke. That's a transition that's like natural. It's a natural transition. I'm not accusing her. And anyway, let's get back at focus. We gotta focus. So Bari Weiss, she, as you heard in the clip I played at the beginning of the podcast, what she's basically saying, and the clip goes on, I didn't play all of it just because it's my podcast. You don't need to hear her stupid voice longer than it's necessary. She goes on to say that at CBS, she basically wants to platform voices that represent the mainstream of America. And that means is she wants to ice out voices like Tucker Carlson on the right and Hassan Piker on the left, including also people like Nick Fuentes, Andrew Tate, who are nominally also on the right. And her point is, we want, these people are bad for America. They don't represent mainstream American thought. So they shouldn't be essentially platformed. Their voices aren't necessary. That's basically what she was saying. If you listen to the whole clip, I'm not taking her out of context. Again, just listen to it yourself. Okay, couple things. Number one, Tucker Carlson actually does represent mainstream American thought. Your typical Republican voter loves Tucker Carlson. Hello, he was like the number one rated show on Fox News for years before they canned him because Fox News wanted to get rid of all the pro-Trump voices because they were trying to prop up Ron DeSantis during the 23 and 24 Republican primary season. Obviously, that didn't work. DeSantis was a fucking disaster. But when Tucker was at Fox News, he was by far the number one rated cable news show. It wasn't close. I mean, there was no competition. I mean, I think Sean Hannity was number 2. Sean Hannity, like the most boring person you could think of. I mean, just like the idea that Tucker Carlson doesn't represent, like, of course he does. if you look at the views that Tucker Carlson espouses and the things he talks about, it represents your sort of your median Republican voter interests. And not just Republican, just your typical working class person. You know, that's who Tucker Carlson represents. That's his audience. He's got one of the biggest podcasts now since he's left Fox News. I mean, by the way, his podcast is great. Please subscribe to Tucker Carlson's podcast. It's awesome. He does great interviews, great topics. He has great monologues. You know, Tucker's great. I love Tucker, as you know. Anyone who's listened to this podcast, you know how much I love Tucker. He was the only reason I would watch Fox News, you know, especially when Trump lost, quote unquote, in 2020. The only news-related thing I would watch, certainly on cable during the 4 years of Biden, was Tucker until he got canned. I don't watch any cable news now, except for clips, obviously, for the podcast, but I just can't stomach it. It's just such awful propaganda. Terrible. But, so the idea that you can't platform voices like Tucker, it's like, what are you talking about? He is the mainstream of the Republican Party, of the conservative movement. That's why Charlie Kirk loved Tucker. I mean, he really looked up to Tucker. I mean, I think Tucker's even, I don't think I'm speaking out of school here. I think Tucker said this, that to some extent, you know, it was sort of like maybe a father-son dynamic a little bit going on with Tucker and Charlie. I mean, they was over 20 years older than Charlie. I think maybe closer to 30. And like Charlie loved Tucker, and we're supposed to like be, I love Charlie Kirk too, but you know, there's sort of this like feeling in conservative circles that you have to like worship Charlie Kirk whenever you have the chance. I'm not going to do that. But if you really care about what Charlie Kirk thought so much on the right, well, he loved Tucker. And he was refusing to not platform him, even though there was, even back then, before the Nick Fuentes interview and all that crap, there were people on the pro-Israel right trying to get Charlie to not platform Tucker just because Tucker was starting to turn on Israel, because you know what? Tucker's against genocide. I know that's controversial in the pro-Israel crowd. They're very sympathetic to genocide when Jews are doing it, I guess, or Israel's doing it. But you know what? I don't like genocide regardless if he's doing it, whether it's Muslims, Jews, Christians. I'm against genocide. And Tucker is too. I know that's controversial to some in the Israel crowd. You know, they think if you're a Palestinian, you deserve to die, according to a lot of these Israel firsters. And, you know, maybe I shouldn't say that, but I'll say that. So Tucker's against genocide. That makes him too radical for Bari Weiss platform. So let me get this straight. Ben Shapiro and all these Israel firsters were basically supporting a genocide. That's not too radical for Bari Weiss. But what is too radical for Bari Weiss, the Jewish lesbian who works for CBS now, talk about a name tag. Her big problem is that Tucker's against genocide, and that's just unacceptable to Bari. Do you see how like crazy this is? Like, it's like, what am I? This is insane. What are we doing here? It's like, now let's talk about some of the other people she mentioned. Hassan Piker. Now, I don't like Hassan Piker. I think he's a fucking retard. Okay, he's stupid. I remember watching him back in like 2018, 2019, and he was really untalented. Like, he did an interview with Jesse Lee Peterson. And, you know, Jesse Lee Peterson, for those who don't know, he's like this black conservative. And basically, he's a big troll. But he was able to, decimate Hassan Piker. And he wasn't even really trolling him. I mean, that's how, and, like, Jesse's not the smartest guy in the world. As he calls it, he's black and slow. His words, not mine. Black and slow. Again, his words, don't cancel me. Those are Jesse's words, not my words. I'm not endorsing it. I'm just describing how he describes himself. And Hassan Piker got destroyed by Jesse. But in all fairness to Hassan Piker, just like his biceps, he has gotten bigger over the years, and he has gotten better at this whole political punditry game. He's a popular streamer. I think he might have gotten banned on Twitch. I don't know. Maybe he's back on. I'm not sure. I don't watch him. I don't watch most commentators, to be honest, because I have my own podcast, bro. I don't need to be looking at these other people. I got me, bro. So you got Hassan Piker, and again, he's not anti-Semitic. He's not. I mean, his uncle, I should also mention Hassan Piker's uncle is Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks. Anna Kasparin also works for the Young Turks. And Anna, if you're listening by chance, call me. You've gotten pretty hot, Anna. Ever since Anna turned conservative, she looks like 15 years younger. It's like crazy. She looks like Anna Kasparian from the early days of the Young Turks. If you know what I'm talking about. Man, I'm going to get canceled if this podcast goes viral. I'm saying way too many things I probably shouldn't say, but whatever. I'm having fun. That's what matters, right? So you have Hassan Piker, and a lot of people on the Israel First crowd have been calling him anti-Semitic because, again, he's against genocide. Look, I hate Hassan Piker. He's like basically a communist, which is gay and retarded. I think that sucks. But that's not why these people don't like Hassan Piker. These people like Bari Weiss and Ben Shapiro, I mean, especially Bari Weiss, they don't like Hassan Piker because Hassan Piker has the gall to talk about the crimes Israel was committing in Gaza. Okay. That's reasonable. I support that. I don't like Hassan Piker, but him bringing attention to all the terrible, terrible things Israel was doing in Gaza was not only appropriate, but it was courageous. Because Hassan Piker knew that was going to give him a lot of shit, as you've seen over the years. So I commend him for that. I'm not going to condemn him. I'm going to commend him. Now, she also mentions people like Andrew Tate and Nick Fuentes. A couple things. Number one, with Andrew Tate, I don't really view him as a serious political figure. I just don't. To me, he's just like one of these manosphere people who talks about, working out and having Bugattis and having sex with like hundreds and hundreds of women. It's like, if you're into that, great. If you're not into that, like, I don't care. I don't really consider him political. I don't think he knows a lot about politics, frankly, other than a lot of surface level crap. And I'm not even criticizing him for that. I just, I don't really view him as political. And I don't even know what he says about Israel. So I'm not even really sure what her angle is regarding Andrew Tate. But then she gets to Fuentes, and Fuentes that's a more tricky case with him because, and if you're a Fuentes fan, and I know you don't always like what I have to say about him, the ones who listen to this podcast too, just look at the YouTube comments and any podcast I do about Fuentes, you'll see. They make their thoughts known. Fuentes is more of an edge case. I could see someone who's against censorship making a good faith argument about why it's better not to platform Fuentes, because he has said inflammatory things. There's no question about that. I mean, if you're a Fuentes fan, let's not be disingenuous. Fuentes has said things that are anti-Semitic. I mean, he does question whether or not the Holocaust even happened. Maybe that itself is inherently anti-Semitic, but you're getting pretty close at that point. It's like the Holocaust is one of the most well-documented atrocities in human history. And Fuentes, who's a very smart person, like, you cannot take that away from him. He's very smart. He's going to pretend like, I don't know what happened. Maybe it happened. Maybe. It's like, what are you talking about? I mean, it's very well documented. You have ancestors who just disappeared, who were Jewish, who were living in Germany. Just like, you can't track where they happened to them. People who are alive who had ancestors, they have stories about what happened. This is not like the Holocaust happened. This is very well documented. And the Nazis talked about it. Hitler talked about it. This is not that, not always publicly, of course, but this is pretty well documented. Nazi guards admitted to doing these atrocities. There were trials. This was a very well-documented thing that happened. And it wasn't just Jews who were targeted, but it was primarily Jews. It was, these people were anti-Semitic. And it was a terrible thing that was done to the Jews. Anti-Semitism is horrible. It's disgusting. Genocide is disgusting. And some of you pro-Israel people have to be reminded of that, because just because the Holocaust happened to the Jews doesn't mean Israel gets to commit genocide in Gaza. And I feel like sometimes there's like this implication that just because the Jews were victims of a terrible atrocity, which they were, that means they're justified in what they're doing in Gaza and the Middle East with Israel. And that's bullshit. But the Holocaust is very well documented, and Fuentes has the gall to pretend like, oh, I don't know what that. It's like, yes, you do. You're just playing a game. And again, I don't even hate Fuentes. I'm sort of sympathetic to him because I do think he got a raw deal with him coming up in conservative media. But he has said things that are anti, and I'm not even naming all of them. I don't have them all the top of my head, but there's plenty of it. So it's like, should Fuentes be platformed? I would say yes, but I don't, I could understand why. And someone in good faith who's not trying to be an Israel hack, who legitimately thinks Fuentes is just too far out there to be mainstream on a platform like CBS, I can understand that. I don't agree with it, I think, but I can understand that. But again, Tucker is not Fuentes. And just because he did an interview where he didn't call him a gay Nazi for 2 hours doesn't mean that Tucker agrees with Fuentes. Again, if you actually listen to or watch the interview that Tucker did with Nick Fuentes, Tucker made it very clear that he's against, guilt by blood. He's against all forms of bigotry, including anti-Semitism. And he made his points very eloquently to Fuentes, more eloquent than I could do. And he got Fuentes to agree to a lot of that stuff. He got Fuentes to agree that racism and bigotry is bad. And I'm supposed to be mad at Tucker for doing that? It's like, no, I'm not. I'm happy Tucker did that to Fuentes. We want Nick Fuentes to moderate. We don't want him to get more radical. What are you, insane? I'm more radical Nick Fuentes? I think I'm good. I think I'll pass on a more radical Nick Fuentes. So, and the other thing is about Bari Weiss is she runs this platform after she left the New York Times because essentially the New York Times was too woke for her. Again, this gay Jewish woman. By the way, again, I'm pretty sure she has a wife. I'm not saying gay to be an insult. I'm not using gay as an insult. I'm using it as a describer, as a descriptive. Again, don't cancel me. But Bari Weiss, she then makes this platform called the Free Press. And, it has a couple 100,000 subscribers. I think under 400,000. It gets a couple thousand views a video. It's not that popular, if we're being honest. But on the Free Press, she's done articles trying to defend Israel. And famously, there was one article done when you had, pictures of these starving children in Gaza because Israel wasn't letting aid into Gaza. And the Free Press did a quote-unquote fact check saying that some of these kids that were dying in Gaza already had disabilities before, the war happened. Which is, sort of insane. I mean, what you're saying is the kids who had disabilities are the first people to die when a war happens. It's like, yeah. And that justifies them dying? That justifies Israel's actions? It's like, what? That's how insane the Free Press is. And that's how insane Bari Weiss is that, it's okay that kids are dying because these kids already had problems before the war started. It's like, what? And also, they left out the fact that some of these kids that were dead were bombed by Israel. Okay, so not all of them just died of, starvation, which, again, was being caused by Israel. And, again, just because, there were kids that were already sick, it's like, yeah, the sick ones are the first people to die when they're not getting aid in, you fucking assholes. And that's supposed to be like, oh, I gotcha. Oh, the press is so anti-Israel, we have to fact check. It's like, no. But you're not doing fact checking, you're doing propaganda for Israel. You sick fucks. I mean, this is why I have no respect for Bari Weiss. And again, I saw these conservatives celebrating that she's joining. First off, CBS, no one watches CBS, so it's not going to have that much of an impact anyway, in all fairness. But again, it's like she's just an Israel whore. She's an Israel cuck. She loves Israel. And that's fine. You can love Israel. You can love Israel. Okay, go have fun. I don't care. But you shouldn't be doing propaganda for a foreign country when you're an American. So, anyway, that's my thoughts on Bari Weiss and her recent comments. Tucker's awesome. He should be platformed everywhere. Everyone in the conservative circles loves Tucker. So, she can shove it up her ass. Terrible woman. Last thing before we... no offense. Last thing before we go... it's going to... I thought of a very inappropriate joke, but I'm not going to say it. See, I'm getting better. Last thing before we go, a little bit of an update on the whole Russia-Ukraine situation. Trump announced on Truth Social, and Truth Social, the best platform ever, terrific, almost as terrific as the president. That's our president. He announced on Truth Social that he was sending Witkoff to meet with Vladimir Putin and some other asshole to go meet with Ukrainian leadership. But then I think it was Bloomberg or some outlet released a transcript and was accusing Witkoff of basically working with the Russians because in this transcript, Witkoff was discussing with the Russians how they could help convince Trump to some of Russia's demands for ending the war. And the mainstream media was trying to spin this as Witkoff's working for a foreign government. It's like, Witkoff was doing his job. That's good. Witkoff is one of the best people who are, a part of this administration. Whenever Witkoff's involved, peace is possible. Just look at Israel and Gaza. When he's not involved, when you have a little Marco involved, peace is impossible. Because little Marco is a war whore and he wants war everywhere. In fact, NBC, for what it's worth, now JD Vance and Marco Rubio released public statements disputing this, so take this with a grain of salt. But NBC reported that JD and Marco were clashing over the Ukraine war because Marco would like the war to continue because he's gay and awful, and JD wants the war to stop because he's based and awesome. Pretty much simplifies the reason why JD should be the candidate in 2028 and why Marco Rubio should go back to Cuba. So, and again, take that with a grain of salt, in all fairness to Marco, because both of them are disputing it. But again, you have people who are just trying to sabotage these peace deals. You have Marco trying to sabotage it. You have people in Congress trying to sabotage it. And now you have the media trying to sabotage the Trump administration's attempt to end this stupid war. So we'll see what happens. It's very disturbing that you'd have leaks from the president's envoy, leaks about a peace negotiation with a foreign country. It's very disturbing. The deep state, again, is still out of control. Trump has not drained the swamp to the extent he should have. So we'll see. This whole peace negotiation with Ukraine and Russia is very tentative. And I'm not necessarily optimistic, but let's hope for the best. Let's see if Trump can pull off another miracle. He's done it before. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. I'm not sure we'll have a show on Thursday or Friday, but we'll definitely have the weekly wrap on Saturday, so you can look forward to that. Again, please subscribe, whether it's on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. I would really frickin' appreciate it. We'll see you soon. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving. Eat all that turkey. Eat as much turkey as you want. Get fat. Doesn't matter. Everyone's fat these days. You'll fit in. You might not fit in an airplane, but you'll fit in with everyone else. So anyway, folks, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.